Have you ever pulled an all-nighter because of a game? That just one more mission that somehow ends with the sun rising through your window? You promise you'll sleep early. You blink, and suddenly you're figuring out how to survive the next day at school or work. Not many games can do that, but when they do, they don't just hook you, they stay with you for life. Today, I'm talking about true masterpieces, the games I consider the greatest in the history of the industry. Get ready, because this list might awaken old memories or start a brand new obsession. Ghost of Tsushima. Man, we're starting this list with a game that is pure visual poetry. If you've ever found yourself just standing on a cliffside in Ghost of Tsushima, watching the pampas grass sway, and realized it's suddenly 3 a.m., you know exactly what I'm talking about. Technically, Sucker Punch did something here that most studios are still trying to replicate in 2026. They turned the environment into the UI. Using the guiding wind instead of a cluttered minimap isn't just a stylistic choice, it's a technical masterclass in minimalist asset integration. It forces the hardware to prioritize the beauty of the world over static icons. The real technical flex is the particle and foliage system. Most games struggle with rendering a few bushes, but Tsushima renders thousands of individual leaves and petals, each with its own physics-based wind reaction. When you're in a duel, the way the blood splatters onto the environment and the way the volumetric fog clings to the trees creates a cinematic fidelity that feels like a Kurosawa film come to life. The combat is built on frame-perfect stance switching, which requires a level of animation blending that is incredibly smooth. It's a 10 out of 10 masterpiece because it respects your eyes and your time, offering a world so immersive that just one more duel quickly turns into a sunrise. Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon is the game for the player who misses the weirdness and the danger of old-school RPGs. It humbles the industry by proving that a smaller team can create a world of dark fantasy that feels more atmospheric than most AAA titles. Technically, the game excels in its environmental shader work. It uses a gritty, almost painterly texture style that makes the world of Avalon feel decaying and cursed. The lighting isn't just dark, it uses a specific, ominous contrast that makes every torchlight feel like a literal lifeline. But the real hook here is the systemic exploration. This isn't a game that holds your hand with quest markers, it trusts your curiosity. The technical AI logic for the monsters is brutal. They hunt you based on sound and sight in a way that feels unpredictable. The magic and combat system allows for a level of build synergy that reminds me of the best parts of Morrowind, but with modern physics. It's the kind of game that makes you lose track of time because the world is so dense with secrets and cursed lore. It's a masterpiece of atmosphere that proves that indie ambition can sometimes outshine corporate polish. The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim. Look, we can't have a masterpiece list without the king. Even in 2026, The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim is the reason we stay up all night. What makes it a before-you-die mandatory play is the technical freedom of the creation engine. While modern games are more stable, Skyrim's engine allows for object persistence on a scale that is still unmatched. If you drop a shield in the middle of a forest, the game's data tracking keeps it there. This creates a sense of physical presence in the world that makes it feel like a second home. The Radiant AI and quest system was revolutionary because it ensured that no two players had the exact same unscripted moments. A dragon attacking a village while you're talking to a blacksmith isn't a scripted cutscene, it's a collision of systems. The modding architecture is the technical backbone that has kept this game alive for 15 years, allowing the community to upgrade the volumetric lighting, 4K textures, and animation rigs to keep it looking fresh. It's a 10 out of 10 because it's not just a game, it's a platform for your own imagination. You start as a prisoner and end as a god, and every hour spent in that transition is worth every penny.
There's a rift here in Skyrim. Can't even imagine what passing.
God of War 2018 is the game that redefined what a prestige action game looks like. God of War 2018 is a technical miracle for one specific reason: the no-cut camera. To tell a 40-hour story without a single camera cut or loading screen requires an unbelievable amount of level design and streaming coordination. The game has to load new assets and unload old ones behind Kratos' back in real time, all while maintaining a cinematic flow that never lets you look away. It's a technical flex that keeps you glued to the screen because the momentum never stops. The combat is a masterclass in hit-stop technology. When Kratos' axe hits a Draugr, the game freezes for a micro-fraction of a second, creating a physical crunch that you can feel through the controller. This, combined with the haptic calibration, makes every swing feel like it has actual mass. The World's Serpent is another technical feat, a character so large the engine has to treat it as both an NPC and a piece of geometry simultaneously. It's a 10 out of 10 because it takes a rage-filled icon and turns him into a father, using every bit of its technical power to make the emotional stakes feel as heavy as the Leviathan axe.
Green ring. Dwarvish inscription.
The alchemist. But where's the rest of him?
Days Gone, man, Days Gone is the ultimate don't judge a book by its cover game. When it first launched, it had a rough road, but in 2026, especially with the recent PS5 Pro and PC remastered patches, it is a technical titan. What makes this a before-you-die experience is the Horde engine. Technically, this is one of the most impressive feats in gaming. The engine can render up to 500 individual AI entities simultaneously, each with its own pathfinding and flocking logic. They don't move like a single block, they flow like a liquid, clamoring over each other to reach you. It's terrifying and exhilarating. The technical flex here is the dynamic weather and terrain interaction. The Oregon wilderness isn't just a backdrop, it's a system. The snow accumulation tech is real time. You can literally watch the ground turn white as a storm rolls in, which isn't just a visual shift. It actually changes the handling physics of your bike, making the tires slip and the engine struggle. The lighting, recently upgraded with PSSR, PlayStation's Spectral Super Resolution on the Pro, makes the transition from the sun-drenched forests to the pitch-black infestation zones feel physically oppressive. It's a 10 out of 10 because it captures the raw, gritty feeling of being a survivor rather than a superhero. If you haven't faced a 500-strong horde at 3 a.m. with your headphones cranked up, you haven't felt true gaming adrenaline.
Alter! Let us steel ourselves against them!
Metro Exodus. If you want to see what next-gen lighting actually looks like, you play Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition. This game is a technical masterpiece because it was one of the first AAA titles to completely remove rasterized lighting in favor of full ray-traced global illumination. Technically, this means that every single photon of light you see is being simulated. When you light a match in a dark tunnel, that orange glow isn't a pre-baked effect, it's bouncing off the rusted walls, the mud, and Artyom's hands in real time. It creates a level of grounded reality that humbles almost everything else in the genre. The diegetic UI and immersion tech are the secret sauce here. You don't have a floating health bar or a mini-map, you have to physically pull out a compass and a paper map, and Artyom's watch shows your stealth level. This requires the engine to render high-fidelity in-world assets that are readable and functional. The weather and particle system, specifically the toxic dust and the blinding snowstorms, utilizes advanced volumetric shaders that make you feel like you're actually choking in a post-nuclear wasteland. It's a 10 out of 10 because it's a sense of place simulator. It's heavy, it's slow, and it's hauntingly beautiful. It's the kind of game that makes you hold your own breath when your gas mask cracks.
So you got me, you damned heretics.
Resident Evil 2 Remake. This isn't just a horror game, it's a masterclass in material and gore engineering. Resident Evil 2 Remake is a 10 out of 10 because it uses the RE engine to create a level of physical consequence we've never seen. The technical highlight is the procedural dismemberment system. The zombies aren't just character models, they have layers of skin, muscle, and bone. When you shoot a limb, the engine calculates the damage and peels back the textures in real time. It's gruesome, but it serves a gameplay purpose. Disabling a zombie's legs actually changes their AI pathfinding. And then there's Mr. X. His AI is a technical marvel of persistent tracking. He isn't teleporting around the map, he is physically walking through the Raccoon City PD. The 3D spatial audio tracks his heavy footsteps through the ceiling and floors, forcing you to use your ears as much as your eyes. The lighting and shadow logic is designed to hide threats, using a deep film grain and high contrast blacks to make every corner feel like a death trap. It's a tight 10-hour experience with zero bloat that proves linear horror can be more intense than any open-world game. It's a mandatory play because it's the most polished survival horror experience ever created. Horizon Zero Dawn. To close out this block, we have the game that combined prehistoric nature with high-tech sci-fi in a way that still looks impossible in 2026. Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered is a 10 out of 10 because of the Decima engine's asset density. Technically, the microgeometry on the machines is staggering. You can see the individual hydraulic lines and glowing components that make a Thunderjaw feel like a functional piece of engineering. When you shoot a part off, the component-based damage system calculates the physics of that piece falling and spinning away. The cloud and atmosphere tech, which was brought over from the sequel for the remastered, creates the most realistic skyboxes in gaming. The clouds aren't just 2D images, they are 3D volumetric structures that cast shadows on the mountains below. The lighting uses PBR, or physically based rendering, to ensure that the metallic skin of the machines reflects the sunset differently than the organic grass and wood of the Nora villages. It's a game of contrast, the primitive versus the advanced, and it uses every bit of its technical power to make that world feel believable. It's worth your sleep because it's a story of discovery that hits its peak when you realize why the world ended. It's a technical and emotional triumph. Detroit Become Human. This isn't just a choose-your-own-adventure game. It is a technical masterclass in narrative branching and motion capture. If you've ever stayed up until 4 a.m. because you were terrified of making a choice that would kill off a character you loved, you know why Detroit Become Human is on this list. Technically, Quantic Dream pushed the boundaries of photorealistic facial rigging. We are talking about thousands of unique animations for micro-expressions, pupil dilation, subtle lip quivers, and skin flushes that are triggered by the emotional state engine. This isn't just for show, it's a technical tool used to bridge the uncanny valley and force you to feel empathy for machines. The real humbler here is the global flowchart system. Most games give you the illusion of choice. Detroit tracks thousands of variables simultaneously across 3 intersecting storylines. The engine has to manage world state data that can lead to hundreds of different ending permutations. Visually, the subsurface scattering on the android's skin, especially when their LED glows reflect off their temples, is a 10 out of 10 technical display. It's a game that asks the big questions about what it means to be alive, and it uses the most advanced performance capture in the industry to make sure you can't look away. It's a mandatory play because it's the closest we've ever come to a truly interactive film.
You child stealer! Take him out of here! Yeah!
You ain't going anywhere. We're gonna fuck your bitch ass up.
Bloodborne. There's a specific kind of madness that comes with playing Bloodborne at 2 a.m. This game is a masterpiece of atmospheric architecture and gothic engineering. While Elden Ring is vast, Bloodborne is dense. Technically, the level design of Yharnam is a nested geometry miracle. The way the world loops back on itself using vertical shortcuts is a feat of spatial logic that humbles modern open worlds. The vertex lighting and particle fog create a wet, grimy Victorian nightmare where the cobblestones actually look slick with blood and rain, utilizing a specific wetness shader that was years ahead of its time. The combat is built on the regain system, a technical mechanic that forces aggression. It's not just about health bars, it's about frame data aggression. The engine rewards you for hitting back within a specific millisecond window after being hurt. The trick weapons are also a technical highlight. Each one is a complex mechanical object with 2 distinct collision meshes and animation sets that transform seamlessly mid-combo. It's a 10 out of 10 because it captures a cosmic horror vibe that is purely systemic. It doesn't tell you to be afraid. The sound design, with its high-frequency shrieks and binaural whispers, makes you feel it in your bones. It's a grueling, beautiful, and technically perfect nightmare. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. We've talked about this legend before, but on a Before You Die list, The Witcher 3 is the king of narrative consistency and scale. What CD Projekt Red achieved with the Red Engine 3 was a revolution in how we handle open-world logic. Technically, the game is a massive database of quest flags. Every choice you make, even a small one in a side quest, can ripple through the main world state 50 hours later. This requires a level of scripting architecture that most studios are too scared to touch. It makes the world feel like it's actually reacting to Geralt, rather than just being a static backdrop. The environment-actor interaction is also top tier. The way the wind gusts through the trees in Valen isn't just a simple animation, it's a global wind vector system that affects everything from Geralt's hair to the cloth physics of his armor. The global illumination and color grading in the Blood and Wine expansion showed that the engine could handle vibrant, painterly aesthetics just as well as the grim, muddy swamps of No Man's Land. It's a 10 out of 10 because it's a soulful RPG. It proves that you can have a map the size of a country and still make every single NPC feel like a real person with a real problem. It is the gold standard for world building through technical and narrative harmony. Red Dead Redemption 2. Finally, we have the game that many consider the apex of human engineering in software. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a simulation masterpiece that makes other games feel like toys. Technically, the Rage engine, Rockstar Advanced Game Engine, is doing things here that are still mind-boggling in 2026. We are talking about individual hair and fur simulation on every animal, volumetric cloud and lighting systems that simulate actual weather patterns across the map, and a physics-based horse animation rig that is the most complex ever built. The real 10 out of 10 worth of RDR2 is the contextual interaction system. Every NPC has a 24-hour life cycle. They wake up, work, go to the saloon, and sleep. You can greet or antagonize anyone, and the AI's reaction is calculated based on your honor, your clothes, and even if you're covered in mud. The material fidelity is insane. If Arthur walks through deep snow, his tracks are physically modeled, and the snow accumulates on his coat in real time. It's a slow burn masterpiece that asks you to live in 1899. It's the ultimate before you die game because it isn't trying to be a game, it's trying to be a second reality. It is an obsessive, beautiful, and technically flawless monument to what our medium can achieve.
Have some respect.
Marvel's Spider-Man. If you want to understand the concept of kinetic technical perfection, you look at Marvel's Spider-Man. This game is a 10 out of 10 because it solved the hardest problem in open-world superhero games, the traversal paradox. Technically, Insomniac Games developed a propulsion-based physics system where the web swinging isn't just an animation, it's a constant calculation of momentum, pendulum physics, and environmental collision. The engine is pulling data from the SSD at a staggering rate to ensure that as you fly through Manhattan at 60 miles per hour, the level of detail, or LOD streaming, never hitches. You see high-fidelity textures on the street level while moving at a speed that would break most other games. But the real before-you-die magic is in the animation blending. There are thousands of transitional animations that allow Peter to shift from a dive to a swing to a wall run with zero jank. It makes the character feel like an extension of your own nervous system. The global illumination on the glass skyscrapers of New York, especially during those golden hour sunsets, utilizes a specialized shader that mimics real-time reflections, even on base hardware. It's a 10 out of 10 because it captures the vibe of being a hero through technical fluidity. It's the ultimate one more mission game because moving through the city is just as much fun as fighting the villains. It's pure, unadulterated joy in motion.
The police will take it from here.
Grand Theft Auto 5. It is impossible to talk about masterpieces without bowing down to the technical longevity of GTA 5. Even in 2026, the Rage engine, Rockstar Advanced Game Engine, used here remains a humbler to the industry. What makes this a before-you-die mandatory play is the seamless multi-protagonist ecosystem. Technically, the game manages 3 distinct live states for Michael, Franklin, and Trevor. When you switch characters, the camera doesn't just cut, it pans out to a satellite view and drops back down into a procedural life scene. The engine is essentially keeping 3 different lives simulated in the background, so you can jump in and find Trevor halfway through a police chase. The density of interaction in Los Santos is still a gold standard. The physics engine handles vehicle deformation, pedestrian AI, and water displacement with a level of physical truth that makes the city feel like a living organism. Let's talk about the lighting and weather logic. The way a thunderstorm in the desert completely changes the surface shaders of the road, creating realistic puddles that reflect the neon lights of Vinewood, is a technical feat that was a decade ahead of its time. It's a 10 out of 10 because it is the ultimate freedom simulator. It gives you a world where you can do everything from flying a jet to playing a round of golf, all backed by a technical foundation that feels unbreakable. It's not just a game, it's a digital monument. Baldur's Gate 3. To finish this list, we have the game that effectively broke the industry's expectations for what an RPG can be. Baldur's Gate 3 is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece because it is the ultimate narrative permutation engine. Larian Studios did something technically impossible. They built a game where the Dungeon Master is a complex web of logic gate programming. Almost every action you take, every NPC you kill, and every failed dice roll ripples through a database of thousands of variables. The engine doesn't just give you a good or bad ending, it calculates a bespoke world state based on your specific journey. Technically, the performance capture is staggering. Every single line of dialogue, even for the most random NPC, was motion captured, utilizing a high-fidelity facial rigging system that captures the nuance of a smirk or a tear. This makes the isometric to cinematic transition feel seamless. The elemental interaction system, Divinity Engine 4.0, allows for systemic chaos. You can cast grease on a floor, set it on fire, then use a water spell to create steam that obscures vision. These aren't scripted events, they are systemic emergence. It's the ultimate before you die game because it respects your agency more than any other title in history. It's a 100-hour epic that stays with you because it feels like your story, built on a technical foundation that actually listens to what you do. It is the definitive masterpiece to close out our list. And there you have it, the 15 masterpieces that represent the very best our medium has to offer. These aren't just games you play, they're worlds you inhabit, stories you survive, and technical marvels that push the boundaries of what we thought was possible. But now, I want to hear your all-nighter story. Which of these masterpieces kept you awake the longest? And is there a 10 out of 10 game that I missed? Drop a comment and let's talk about these legends.